Hi everybody, today we are going to learn how to classify numbers and specifically if a number is rational or irrational. So you can copy down this whole learning goal, but we're going to just focus on rational versus irrational today. So pause it, write that down, and then continue listening. So today we're going to first learn that all numbers that we are going to study are real numbers. So real numbers include all rational and irrational numbers, and they can be found on this number line. There are some types of numbers that you will learn in high school or later on that are called imaginary numbers. So there are numbers out there that aren't real, but we are not going to study them this year. So today we're going to focus our notes right now and our learning goal on if a number is rational or irrational. Sometimes this is tricky for students, so I want to try to break it down as easily as I can. Anytime I'm given a number, there's three things I'm going to ask myself to decide if it's irrational. There just seems to be way less numbers in the irrational spot. So you can kind of think of irrational numbers as this specific club, and it's very specific on who they let in their club. So if I'm given a number, I'm going to ask myself, is that number pi? If it's pi, then yes, it's an irrational number. It's the most famous irrational number, and in fact, it's written as written as the symbol pi because it goes on and on forever. We could write it until we die and never be done because it goes on and on forever. So if it's pi, yes, it's an irrational number. Next, I'm going to ask, is the number I'm trying to decide have a square root? Meaning, does it literally have this symbol? If it has this symbol, then I have to say, is it a non-perfect square? So for example, if I'm given the square root of 4, the square root of 4 is a perfect square, so it is not irrational. It's going to go over here to the rational spot. If I'm given the square root of 9, 9 would also be rational. Let's say the square root of 8. I'm going to say, okay, it has a square root sign on it. Is this a perfect square or a non-perfect square? Since it's a non-perfect square, it would be irrational. All right? So, first question, is it pi? If it's pi, yes, it's irrational. Number 2, does it have a square root symbol on it? If it does, and it's a perfect square, it's rational. So we're going to cross it off. It's not an irrational number. It's going to go over here. Perfect squares are over here. If it's a non-perfect square, then it is irrational. All right, now the third thing I'm going to ask is my number a decimal? If it is a decimal and it repeats, so repeats, going to go over here, or terminates, which means stops, it's going to go over here. The only type of number, the only type of decimal that goes over here is a decimal that goes on and on forever without repeating. So let's say I made up a number and there's no repeating pattern, every digit just is random and different, then that would be irrational. So all irrational numbers go on and on without repeating. We'll know they go on and on without repeating if it's pi. We'll know it goes on and on without repeating if it's a non-perfect square. And we'll know it goes on and on without repeating if it's a decimal that doesn't have a pattern, it goes on and on. So these are your 3 magic questions to decide if it's an irrational number. If it's not one of these type of numbers, then it's automatically over here as rational. Rational numbers are perfect squares, they are decimals that repeat, they are decimals that terminate, and they are all fractions and whole numbers, which we will go over those types of classifications tomorrow. So make sure you have these 3 things down, and these are the questions you ask yourself. Is it pi? Is it a square root? If it's a non-perfect square, irrational, decimals that go on and on forever. All right, thanks for listening, and write your summary and your questions. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to stop this. So you're going to watch me try to stop my screen right now. Exit drawing. Excellent. All right. Thanks for listening. I think I found it.